the dollar will strengthen before the dollar will collapse. And when it collapses, it's simply going to collapse against gold or precious metals. It's not going to collapse against the yuan or the euro or the yen or the sterling. Those currencies are going to be long gone well before the dollar falls. You'll see gold and the dollar move together, and then you'll see the dollar fall away and you'll see gold reign supreme.
Hey friends, thank you so very much for pushing play. I'm very glad to have you back, and a special thanks to my patrons over at patreon.com. You're really moving heaven and earth, keeping us in this fight, the fight for truth. And today I have on a new guest, Bob Kudla from Trade Genius. He's the founder of Trade Genius. He's also a former U.S. Marine, and boy, do we like our U.S. Marines. Bob, how are you?
I'm good, Sean. Thanks for the shout out.
Hey, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. And guys, I just want to let you know, boy, did Harley Schlanger hit it out of the park. We have nearly 200,000 views on that interview with Harley. It was just posted a couple days ago. And Harley's helping us see our cup as half full, because it certainly is. Bob, you'd agree with the election of President Trump instead of the Wicked Witch? Our cup is definitely half full, is it not?
Oh, I thank God every night that President Trump won the election.
Yeah, you and me both. And have you seen the recent video of Hillary and Bill flying commercial? Now, I know they've flown commercial in the past, but given the hundreds of millions, in fact, billions of dollars funneled through the Clinton Foundation, money that they have essentially looted just from the people of Haiti, isn't it amazing they're not flying on their own private jet right now?
Yeah, they should be flying on an Air Marshal jet on the way to Leavenworth, but I'll take commercial.
Or Gitmo. Let's get them over to Gitmo. We can get them a private jet over to Gitmo, I bet, couldn't we?
Hey, I've been there. I was stationed there for a while.
Is that right?
Yeah. So that place is deserving of them.
Do you think that it's possible that we might see tribunals for some of these traitors? Is that truly in the cards? Or do you think maybe what will happen is these people will just be, instead of arrested and tried for their crimes, they will be belittled in public? I mean, they were on that commercial airline or a Delta flight, and nobody gave two craps about them being there. And I thought that was pretty amazing.
Yeah, 10 years ago, I would have said no. But, we're going into they call it the fourth turning and or the economic winter. And people, excuse me, and people just aren't putting up with this stuff anymore. So 2008, the bankers had a hall pass. I think when we go into the next recession and the people have their hands out, I think there'll be righteous rioting in the streets.
I'll tell you something. I want to let everybody know, guys, boy, the problems with Skype continue. We're recording this over on Zoom. Bob and I did an entire interview already yesterday, and none of the audio recorded. And I just think that what's going on, it's never been more evident, Bob, to me, that the powers that be don't want people like us, people in the alt media, having these discussions, and they certainly don't want the average American waking up to the truth of the matter, which is the left and parts of the right are utterly corrupt, and Donald Trump truly is trying to enforce the rule of law and take this country back for the people, which stands in stark opposition to what Hillary's Rothschild mandate was.
Yeah, I agree with you. Look, the right is about constitution and about rule of law, and the left is about, means to an end. Look, they've used the judiciary for as long as they possibly can. That road is closing to them, so now they're using private corporations to advance their agenda, and they filter words now, they filter phrases, they filter images, they're trying to guide narratives. They create fake news and call it authentic news, and then the people that are actually out there challenging those belief systems are being shut out, so that the average uninformed person thinks that what is being shared with them is the actual truth. And I think people now are starting to wake up to that. And I think they'll eventually lose that battle too, because in the end, Sean, truth always wins out.
Well, you know where we're seeing a big sea change? And of course, we hear this hashtag Great Awakening, right? That's a meme that we're seeing through the QAnon movement. But just in the past couple of days, I've become aware of this hashtag Walkaway movement. Now, this is a big story. People who formerly labeled themselves as leftists or hardcore liberals are waking up to the absolute insanity of the hardcore left, the left that actually wants to kill free speech. They want to silence any speech that they don't agree with. And people like Lindsay Shepherd, you might remember her from the Wilfrid Laurier University up there in Canada. She got in trouble for just merely sharing a video containing some of Jordan Peterson's positions. And the trouble she got in shocked her so badly that she has now joined the Walkaway movement and is disavowing the left and their intolerance. That's a big story.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was born and raised in Pennsylvania, and we were a union household and a family. We all considered ourselves Democrats, and my values haven't changed at all. Other than as you get older, you value freedom and independence and hard work a little bit more as an adult. And I'm pretty mainstream, but I'm considered pretty alt-right at this point, just because I believe in God, family, country, and hard work. Those things are anathema to the left. And because we don't have a left and a right anymore, we have Marxist Stalinists, and then we have the rest of the country. And I think a lot of people are waking up to the fact that if they're not hardcore, they're now going to be ostracized too. And I think I'm glad people are waking up to the Walkaway movement, because, Lenin had a phrase for people like this that didn't wake up in the 1917 area. Was they called them useful idiots. These are the people that he advanced the agenda and hid the Stalinists and the Marxists behind a wall. And then once they gained power, they immediately liquidated these people because they knew they'd be a challenge to their authority. And I think because we do have social media and we do have people like you out there talking every day, taking professional and personal risks, is that people are like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I mean, if me just pointing out some opposing views going to get me ostracized from my professional career or my friends, I better get in front of this. So I'm glad there's a lot of people here that are waking up to the fact that, hey, the people on the right are conservative people. They may disagree with my lifestyle, but they're not apt to kill me. And the left, people aren't too sure anymore.
Well, I have long lamented what I have called the intellectual dishonesty of those on the left, people like Mark Maron and people like Meryl Streep, all of the hardcore lefties. I've maligned them for their lack of intellectual honesty as it relates to the polarization and the outright criminality of people like Hillary Clinton and the people on the left. And so what I want to do right here for you, Bob, and in the audience, is I want to play a soundbite from Vanessa Berben. And this is from her video called Vanessa Berben, My Walkaway Story. And this will completely, perfectly frame up the horror story for the left and people like Hillary Clinton. This soundbite that I'm going to play for you celebrates the fact that people on the left are waking up and do have intellectual honesty. God bless you, Vanessa. Here's the clip.
To see people that I thought were reasonable actually advocating that other people should have their freedom of speech limited because we don't agree with them, that is the most insane, scary concept. I can't even fathom that there are people I call friends that believe that. All it does is just further alienate me and alienate the rest of us and push us towards one another.
And more importantly, she says that now these people are so polarizing that people like her are leaving the left, and now people are coming together. And that's the bottom line. That's the most important news. We, the people, can come together. That is the Great Awakening.
Yeah, I mean, look at President Trump. If I could pardon the pun here, he trumped a lot of the mainstream Democratic views, which I think a lot of people simply shared. I consider myself right of center economically, but I absolutely am opposed to the trade policies of the past. I'm absolutely did treatment for workers, and I have employees, and you have to take care of these people, and now they don't have that to hang on, so they have to get more and more and more extreme. And when they get more and more extreme, the voices that are the most extreme take over. It's almost like be careful of what you wish for. They allowed their party to be hijacked by people who really don't want a functioning America. They really want a crippled America, so that the socialists coming out of Europe can really, run the world. Look, this goes back and we talked about this yesterday, this goes back to the entire, Rockefeller and the Rothschild, the whole banking cartel. These people want to run the world, and they know if they can control credit and they can control currency, they can control the people. And so they don't like the fact that America is sitting 2,000 miles away on an ocean and 3,000, 4,000 miles away on an ocean on the other side, and could be relatively immune to a lot of the world's problems because, we could feed ourselves, we could energize ourselves. We have two relatively stable neighbors. Mexico has their issues, but they're fairly stable as a country, and they don't like that. So they're trying to create a situation where America cannot operate alone. And I think they thought they had it. They thought they had the coronation with Obama and then roll it right into Hillary. And the good Lord saw fit to take us a different direction. Yeah,
that's right. It would have been absolutely game over under a Hillary Clinton presidency. And I think what's really interesting again about this Vanessa Berben, my Walkaway story, is the fact that she didn't like Hillary Clinton. She wanted to vote for Bernie, and she wasn't going to vote for Hillary except for in the last week or two right before the election, the Bernie campaign sent out an email to all their supporters saying, please support Hillary, vote for Hillary. And she reluctantly did so. And she's come to regret it. And in fact, because of her awakening, she says that if the election were rewound now, she's not even sure that she would have voted for Bernie if he was the candidate. And so here's the good news, folks. Many of us have been worried about this idea that the lefties are so far gone and they are so filled with hatred for Trump and anything having to do with decency, constitutionality, the Bill of Rights, stuff like that, a lawful immigration policy, that people have been worried about a civil war in this country. But I'm here to tell you guys, the good news is people like Vanessa are waking up in droves.
I don't see how wanting a strong working immigration policy is wrong. I don't see how that makes me a bigot.
And this whole hashtag Walkaway meme is a huge deal because these people were just as afraid of the hardcore left as the rest of us right-thinking people were. And now these people are waking up and they're finding their voice and they're saying, I want nothing to do with this. Vanessa cares about the Constitution and free speech, just like we do, Bob. So I think people are truly coming together. This is truly the Great Awakening. I'll say it again.
Yeah, the African-American community has finally found a voice that they don't have to be under the thumb of one party. And in the Hispanic community, I know a lot of people fear that, but, the only issue I really have is too many, too fast, too poor. But these are incredibly hardworking people. They're God-fearing people for the most part. They're family-oriented people. And they left a country which is absolutely corrupt and use the same tactics that they're seeing here. And a lot of them, as they get established in the United States, aren't going to want to repeat and become Mexico all over again. And then, just the mainstream Americans are just, look, people just want to get up in the morning and work and have fun with their family, have a little free time, a little extra money in their pockets to take a vacation or to take care of their kids. And all this being thrown at them all the time, I think people are just getting they're getting fatigued by it. And then the more these people act out, the more people are starting to oppose it. So I agree with you. There's no civil war. And even if there was one, it would be the shortest civil war in world history because all the people who don't agree with them own all the energy and all the food and the transportation network. So it'll be really, really quick and it'll be over very fast because the people are living in cities, that are gonna try to do this opposition, and food just won't come into the cities. This happened in Argentina, Sean, where the Kirchner, she was forcing the farmers to sell their crops for essentially a loss so that she can provide cheap food for her people and her power base in Buenos Aires, and just like what Venezuela did. But the farmers in Argentina said, we simply aren't going to deliver any food. We're going to blockade the roads. Well, she rolled over in 10 days and she was out of power in 6 months. So, this country's too big, and the people that are agitating are extremely isolated, and they have no means to take care of themselves. So I think people just need to relax on that front, and just continue to work hard and do all the right things, and don't be afraid to speak up. People wish in the 30s they probably would have opposed Hitler more effectively, but they did not. And I'm glad that the Walkaway movement, people have found their voice, and social media certainly helps with that.
Yeah, well, you said the Civil War would be one of the shortest lived ever, and you're absolutely right, because even the violence we see coming out of groups like Antifa and things like that, most of that is contrived. A lot of these people are being paid to rabble rouse and to infiltrate and cause this type of violence. And people like Vanessa and people like Lindsay Shepard will not be on that side of the Civil War. They've already disavowed that type of insane thinking coming from the hardcore left. And when I say the hardcore left, Bob, you know this, we're talking about hardcore Marxists and communists. That was the vision for this country. FBI infiltrator of the Weather Underground, Larry Grathwohl, blew it wide open and said that people like Bill Ayers and the Weather Underground wanted to infiltrate the United States government. And they kind of got there with Obama, and their plan was to finish us off with Hillary Clinton. And according to Larry Grathwohl, the plan was to introduce a Marxist communist vision for the country, and anybody, guys like us who couldn't be re-educated, would be terminated. And according to Larry Grathwohl, that meant 30 million people, by the Weather Underground's estimates, would have to be terminated. And when he said terminated, he clarified it. He meant killed, murdered.
Yeah, that was 15% of the population back then, too. So it wouldn't surprise me. The communists and the Marxists have killed more people in this world than anybody put together. Over 100 million between Pol Pot and Mao and Stalin. And they continually, blame, Christians for all the wars. And I'm like, oh, those seem to be all atheists to me. And so you have to fear these people. They have an ideology that they're not constrained by God. So they're only constrained by their own moral judgment, and they view what they're doing as absolutely right. So killing you to them is a positive, and we can never let these people have anywhere near any levels of power in our country.
That's right. And, we talked about this yesterday. You mentioned Stalin and Pol Pot. And I said, well, keep in mind, too, that it's the House of Windsor, House of Rothschild, House of Morgan, House of Rockefeller, Astor's, Kuhn Loeb. These are the houses that have been behind these movements, these communist movements that have led to the execution of tens of millions of people. And so that is also part of the Great Awakening. Once we realize who the slave masters on this planet truly are, then we're truly empowered to break our conditioning and to be free, live free, and to fight the actual enemies of humanity. So therein is the good news. I think people are also waking up to the fact that the money masters are the ones behind so much of this misery.
Well, look, the kingdoms of England, France, Spain, and Portugal, those were the four world powers from essentially 1400 all the way through to the World War I. Every one of them created a default on their economic power because they took credit from those bankers. And now they're trying to do it to America, but we're a unique case just because of geography and our ability to feed ourselves. And also we have still a very strong, moral compass, at least for, how we view ourselves in terms of, the exceptionalism that you call it. The exceptional meaning that you can do anything in this country if you work hard. They haven't beaten that out of us. That's why they're trying to migrate that out of us. They want to send in as many refugees as possible to be able to dilute that thinking and that thought process. And I think they're losing on that front too.
Yeah, and let me say this, another housekeeping note I forgot to mention at the beginning of the broadcast when I said the powers that be don't want us having these types of conversations because they don't want people like Vanessa waking up. My friend Marty Leeds, who has the Marty Leeds 33 channel on YouTube, just had his channel terminated the other day. He emailed me yesterday lamenting the fact that once again he's been a victim of Big Brother and Orwellian censorship. Guys, I still have my 2 strikes, so a third unwarranted community guideline strike would allow the Big Brother apparatus at YouTube to terminate my channel. And at the end of the day, Bob, if we don't have free speech, if we can't get together in the electronic town square, which is what YouTube is, which is what we're doing right now, having a conversation and sharing it with anybody who wants to tune in. If they take that away from us, it really shows how damn desperate they are.
Yeah, and I think alternatives will pop up, but also I don't put it past President Trump to get past this next election and turn his sights on these social media companies and declare them utilities, which would force them to have fairness clauses to allow all voices to be spoken. Look, the Justice Department just lost a court case where they tried to arrest a guy for posting CNC instruction, the blueprint instructions on creating pistols and rifles via 3D printing, and they were forced to retract because of First Amendment right considerations. And I think we're going to have the same thing here. The social media companies have an issue where they're trying to play both ends against the middle here, where they say we do not need to be regulated because we don't stifle the speech, but they turn around and they stifle the speech, and it's gonna turn into some sort of class action at some point where the government's going to take that case, and I think they're going to force fairness doctrine upon all these folks, and they're going to require them to allow people to have free speech. And if that doesn't happen, there'll be alternative media, and Google and all these guys will lose half their audience because the country's kind of split left, right, 50-50 or 40-40, if you will, and they'll just be cutting their own throats.
Well, let me ask you this, Bob. I know you're a hard assets guy, as am I. You believe in physical gold and physical silver. And I know the silver story's gotten a little long in the tooth here, but meanwhile, JP Morgan is amassing the largest physical silver hoard ever seen in human history. And that in itself is a big story. Let's talk about hard assets and the economy. I know many in the space have been predicting there will be a crash. Maybe it'll be a global crash. Maybe it'll start in the EU and then come to the United States. But eventually there will be a crash and nation states will turn away from the dollar and we may see hyperinflation. What do you see? And what is your timeline for anything having to do with a crash?
Yeah, so I have a third opinion. I call it really the Great Reset, Sean, is that I think a lot of people are thinking, are we going to get a 1929 event? Are we going to get a 1974 event? Are we going to get a 2008 event? But really, there's things happening now that are in play that I think a different things happening. So what we see at Trade Genius is that there is a migration away from the banking system to this new phenomenon, digital currency, cryptocurrency, blockchain, whatever you want to call it, and where the banks are becoming obsolete. And so people are going to be able to directly communicate with each other for banking and even for like social media or for really any kind of economic transaction. So that's number one. And that's going to provide efficiency in the market. And also it's going to take out a lot of parasites. The bankers sit in the middle of a lot of transactions. They take up 17% of GDP. And so that's going to take a lot of friction out of the market. The second thing that we're seeing is that this whole thing, we're going from fake to real. That's why you say I'm a hard asset guy. So up until this point, the bankers in conjunction with the central bankers around the world have been selling their currencies off and they're buying our stock market. And what they're doing is they're creating this illusion of stability and prosperity. But the only people really benefiting from it is really the top 0.05%. And some people that have pensions and 401k are doing okay. And that whole process is going to start breaking down. In fact, today, the market is rolling again. Our view is that in February, we think the market had topped. And so our view is that we're going from fiat to hard currency, and we're going from the financialization or Wall Street to Main Street. So I think you're going to see some parts of the economy. I wouldn't want to live in New York or Chicago because I think those areas are going to suffer greatly. And I think you're going to see the Midwest, the South, the Intermountain West start to revive because that's where the natural resources are. And they're going to have availability to access credit where it's been being denied to them because of the way Wall Street runs and Chicago runs the futures markets and the stock market. So So that's why I say we're going to see a reset. Now, is it going to be volatile? Yes. Is it going to be a little scary sometimes? Yes. But I think what you're seeing, what President Trump is doing, is that he knows that he has to build GDP up, and he's going to take it out of the hide of China, Germany, and Japan, and he's going to bring those jobs home to America, and he's going to boast he's going to he's going to boost our employment and our savings and our spending, and he's going to make it more domestic, which is going to be a good guy for the deficit. And it's going to be also a good guy for funding some of the social programs like Social Security and Medicare, where people say it's going to start rolling over here soon. So that's my view on it. Now, where it's going to crash, China, Japan, and Germany, they will see crashes, absolutely, in my mind.
That's interesting. And as you, I'm sure, are well familiar, economist John Williams has been calling for hyperinflation. And I think he actually believed it would begin in, his original prediction was maybe 2014. He was quite sure we'd see hyperinflation of the dollar by 2016. Here we sit in 2018. Will the dollar ever hyperinflate? It seems to me it's baked in the cake based on the debt, but maybe not.
No, because currencies are all relative, Sean. So how are people going to transact? So we're the one-eyed king in the land of the blind. So all the other currencies are going to roll over, and they already have started. That's why people have been shocked. People have been calling for the dollar crash for the last 8 to 10 years, and the dollar keeps staying strong because all the other currencies are failing. The only thing that really is going to stop it is if there is a concerted effort towards the special drawing rights, or the cryptocurrencies start to take off and people trust one of the coins or the tokens. But next 2 years, I don't see any kind of hyperinflation. Now, having said that, it does not mean that gold and silver and the precious metals and the miners cannot rise along with the dollar. That is foretold. There's a guy called Exeter. He created this inverted pyramid of what's called trusting of the assets. And we're rolling down now where the assets that are going to be the most trusted are going to be the dollar, gold, and U.S. treasuries. And as you're going to see it breaking down, as people start losing trust in the treasuries, you'll see gold and the dollar move together. And then you'll see the dollar fall away and you'll see gold reign supreme. And that's where we are right now. So, the dollar still has a few more years while the other currencies implode and maintain its reserve status. What people don't realize, Sean, is that a lot of the world have dollar debt. So as the dollar gets stronger and maintains its strength, people have to find real dollars. There's two currencies broken into two parts. It's broken into, cash that you actually touch and credit. So there's credit dollars and cash dollars. And so when somebody has debt and they have to pay it back because the currency is getting stronger and they have to unwind that debt, they got to find cash dollars and they get more dear. And that's what you see when you see what's the dollar doing today. And so around the world, we have a lot of dollar debt out there that has to be liquidated, and they have to find real dollars in order to do that. And so that's why things seem like ass backwards, if you will, because the dollar will strengthen before the dollar will collapse. And when it collapses, it's simply going to collapse against gold or precious metals. It's not going to collapse against the yuan or the euro or the yen or the sterling. Those currencies are going to be long gone well before the dollar falls.
Okay. And in our conversation yesterday, you did mention that you actually prefer silver to gold. So I want to ask you about that. You know that JP Morgan is amassing this giant hoard of physical silver. So I'd like to get your thoughts on that. And another little note of housekeeping, I want to let everybody know that our friends over at SD Bullion, sdbullion.com, are now offering shipping internationally. So to the 35 or 40% of you listening that don't live in the United States, head over to SGTreport.com and click on the horizontal banner at the very top of the site and go visit our friends at sdbullion.com if you want to get physical silver or physical gold. And they are now shipping internationally, which I think is very, very good news for our friends listening outside of the country. Bob, what are your thoughts on physical silver? Why do you like it a little bit better than gold? And why do you suppose JP Morgan cares so much about hoarding it?
Well, I like silver over gold because the ratio is out of whack, number one. So Silver is 17 times less rare than gold, but the ratio is far worse. So silver is that much more undervalued. Number two is that they're not producing enough silver in order to meet the demand in the out years, the years to come. And number three is that silver is used as industrial metals as well. So every time somebody puts a solar panel up, 2 ounces of silver gets thrown up on the roof. So that gets locked out of the market. And also anything that do with sterilization in medical field is silver. And so silver is going to go in an increasing deficit. And the other reason why I like silver is, look, when you have to do trading, like, you know, when I talk about bartering trading, when it starts to come to that again, you're not going to want to walk around with gold. I mean, you'd have to walk around with thin pieces of gold to transact, where silver is a little bit more convenient for people. Plus, psychologically, when it's trading at $15 versus, you know, $1,200 for gold, you know, it's more people will tend to buy it when it starts to go up. And plus, you know, we're traders here at Trade Genius. So when this moved in 2011, silver moved on a factor of 2 to 1 to gold, and silver miners were moving at a factor of 4 and 8 against silver. So you can make a lot of money really fast when silver breaks out again. And JP Morgan's amassing silver for that same reason. These people aren't stupid. They're nefarious, but they're not stupid. And so they're able to go ahead and amass this at the same time, use the futures market to hold it back until demand overwhelms them. And they're probably holding silver as a hedge against some of their other liabilities too. And when they know they need to then release silver to back some of their losses, they'll let silver run and be able to pay off those internal debts with silver they have on hand. So that's why JP Morgan's probably doing it. But I love it. I tell people all the time, you know, what's my number one favorite thing? It's silver miners. And we were talking yesterday that, you know, silver hasn't done anything in basically the last 2 years, but we've had two beautiful moves in like companies like First Majestic, where it tripled in 2016 and it went up 50% this year. So you can find really good things to trade, and that's what we do here at Trade Genius. So, you know, we try to help people make money a little bit every day in the market by finding these opportunities, and we understand this market extremely well. And so we just rely on our algorithms and our proprietary software to bring up these opportunities for us. So we're energy guys, we're silver guys, we're miners, and then I know your audience isn't particularly excited about cryptocurrencies. I would like to educate them to the contrary at some point, but we also are doing very well helping people buy in and amass positions in some major cryptocurrencies too, because we think the digital currency space, silver miners, gold miners, energy, food, and even agricultural chemicals are going to be where the money is going to be made out in the next 2 to 3 years.
Okay. Now, when we were talking yesterday, yeah, you mentioned that move in First Majestic, and you know, we know Keith Newmeyer personally. I've had him on many times. Great guy. And these mining companies have been, for the most part, just absolutely decimated. So I guess at some point in the future, hopefully, these gold and silver mining companies will see their day in the sun. I mean, it's ridiculous that you can buy an ounce of silver right now from our friends over at SD Bullion for 16, 17 bucks an ounce. You can only imagine what it would take to get the stuff out of the ground and refine it and turn it into a beautiful coin. I mean, it's literal insanity. And I think that we're being subsidized. Our purchases, you, me, and everyone listening, our purchases of $16, $17 silver is being subsidized and kept that cheap by the criminal international banks for some reason. I guess I don't really know why. My friend Chris Dwayne will tell you why. But it's insane that it's still that cheap.
You know, hey, don't look the gift horse in the mouth. You know, it is the most undervalued asset out there, and amass. Build a position in this. And, you know, First Majestic is going to lead the charge. You watch. Keith did a speech a year ago saying that he's going to leave at some point and take all the other silver miners with him. They're going to leave the COMEX exchanges, and they're going to form their own blockchain to cut out these parasites that are holding back the price of silver. You know, they're the ones that are taking it on the chin for these low prices. And if they cut out the bankers, see, What people don't realize about the futures markets is the banks have the ability to do what's called unlimited shorting. They don't even have to cover their bet. And they can just short it and short it and short it. And what that means is that they can overwhelm any buyer with sell orders and force the price down artificially. That wouldn't normally happen in a functioning market. And if you take this stuff off of these futures exchanges and onto these blockchain exchanges, you're not allowed to short unless you have the commodity to deliver. And that means you'll see silver go from $15 to $500, in a couple years, because it's going to find its market price, because they're not going to be able to short it. And First Majestic is leading that charge. They're absolutely waiting for that technology to mature, and they're going to walk away from these exchanges. You watch.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's big news. I'll have to talk to Keith about that. All right. So your website is tradelikeagenius.com. I think most people, the average person, if they try to trade at all, are abysmal at it. It's very difficult. Give us the elevator speech on Trade Genius. How do you make people money who really don't know how to trade?
Yeah, so what we do is we first of all, we educate people. We show them there's some very basic things. Trading is not hard. It's more difficult, and it takes courage and comfort with your convictions. So a lot of people will see, hey, I should probably buy here, but then they hold off and they get in too late, and the prices turn against them, or they just don't believe what they're seeing. And we've been doing this for so long. I've been trading since 1991. Is that we just know from the algorithms that we created, based on just doing this over and over and over again, when certain things happen to a stock market and a stock price, we know that there's a high likelihood, 70% chance or greater, we will make money on that trade. And so we apply that to our approach. And then what we do is we help our subscribers by actually sending them out the signal. And it just works. And then we just tell people, hey, this is how you move your stops up, meaning protecting yourself. And then you make money. We're not greedy. We only stay with the well-known names, and we just help people make money nearly every day in the market. We had great trades this week on energy. We just closed out some of those minor trades I just talked about, with First Majestic being 50%. We've made 50% on Hecla mining, and they're out there every day, Sean. And we just have our filters. We find them on behalf of the clients. We share them with the clients, and we help them make money on it. And then we also have a whole education package for people to buy. And they can go ahead and they can pick and choose across the board, futures trading, options trading, stock trading, trading the cryptocurrencies. And then we have a community that they can join. If you become a subscriber, you get access to the trading rooms. And in those trading rooms, everybody's helping each other. They're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Some of these rooms have hundreds of people in them, and you just throw a question out there. And during market hours, I'm there all the time. And so it just works out very well for people. We demystify and we simplify trading for people, and that's how we help them make money.
Okay, cool. Well, shout out the website again, and any final words. I really, truly do believe, and I've said it, I'll keep saying it, our cup is half full because the Wicked Witch is not sitting in the Oval Office executing her UN Agenda 2030 policies and literally executing Americans who don't agree with her. So we'll leave everybody with a good note. Final word from you and the website.
Yeah, so we're tradelikeagenius.com, one word. Go to our site. We're running specials right now. We have some great, what we call bundles, where you can get our software that has the signals on them, and you get the signal service that comes to you via text and email, and join our rooms. And then you have to the 15th to take advantage of some really incredible pricing. You can join month by month, or you can buy an annual and get additional savings. And I think you'll like it. We're a really good group of people, and I think we're all like-minded. And our goal is to help people make money. Stock market is one of the places where I win and you can win. So we're all in it together.
I like that. I say that a lot as it pertains to this mess we've been in for so long. And it was the mess of the New World Order aligned against we the people. And again, the sea change that I'm seeing is a great awakening where people on the hardcore left are starting to realize that the Constitution and free speech and the Bill of Rights, this is a coming together of human beings over false right-left paradigms. And guys, if you want to learn more, if you want to visit Bob and check out the offerings over there at Trade Genius, visit tradelikeagenius.com. I'll put the link below this video. Bob, thanks so much for your time.
Hey, Sean, thanks for having me, and invite me back when you want to talk more.
Yeah, I most certainly will. I really do appreciate speaking with you, and I hope folks enjoyed this one. Guys, we'd appreciate it if you'd spread this interview in your own sphere of influence on social media and help us get the word out. This great awakening is real. Thanks so much for listening, guys. And for Real News 24/7, visit us at SGTreport.com, the antidote to corporate propaganda. God bless. Bye-bye.
Regarding the 2016 election and Trump, Brennan then sent teams over to work with the British. He and Clapper went to Comey, who's turning out to be a hapless half-wit. They went to Comey and said, you have to set up an investigation into this.